So you guys have to help settle this debate because Matt and I here have been debating all day long which state is better for roller coasters, Ohio or Pennsylvania. And I'm trying to convince Matt that Pennsylvania is much better for like a coaster trip and overall, theme park, amusement park, and coasters. But he says Ohio. Now, we're going to go through a whole list of reasons why we each represent the state. Then at the end, we're going to really base it off of the future of the parks, like what type of new coasters they could get, like how the parks will be 5-10 years from now to lead to the better overall states for the best coasters. So what do you say? Let's get into this.
Let's do it.
Okay, so why do you think Ohio is better than Pennsylvania?
Well, I mean, when people think of the best places to go to for roller coaster parks, they don't think of Pennsylvania. They think about Cedar Point. They think
what's
about
Cedar Point?
It's the roller coaster capital of the world.
I thought it was the restaurant capital of the world.
They got good restaurants there too.
They got a lot of restaurants.
But I mean, there are two world-class parks in Ohio between Kings Island and Cedar Point, and they have some of the best roller coasters in the entire country. And there's a handful of other roller coasters sprinkled throughout Ohio that you can go visit
the Columbus Zoo has a little family wooden coaster. I think they have another Wild Mouse they just added.
Yeah,
I mean, I grew up in Ohio, so at heart, I feel like Ohio's better. But the old classical parks that Pennsylvania offers, you really can't find. I mean, Cedar Point is, but Cedar Point's so corporate, right? Even though it really doesn't feel that much like it. But you go to Kneobels and Kennywood, and even Dorney Park has so much history. And Kings Island opened in 73, and obviously Cedar Point opened in, 1870s? Or am I way off on that?
Yeah,
I don't even know. Yeah. It's 150 years old. But anyways, well, I just feel like there's so much more charm to the parks in Pennsylvania. And of course, you have Hersheypark, which is by far one of the most up-and-coming parks there is. I mean, there's people out there, and I almost agree to a point where does Hersheypark offer a better coaster collection than Cedar Point? Now with Wildcats Revenge, and then let's just say Dragster's out of the equation, right? No Dragster. You almost have to. I mean, at least consider it.
Oh, I definitely consider it.
I mean, Hershey is great.
If you want to smell chocolate all day long, sure, that sounds great. But you know what you can get at Kings Island?
You get free chocolate at the end of the chocolate factory ride thing.
You get some chocolate, but you know the one thing Pennsylvania does not have that Ohio does have? A certain dish of spaghetti chili that I know you are a fan of.
The
Skyline chili is only available in Ohio.
But here's the thing. Pennsylvania has Sheetz. And Sheetz are great gas stations to go to get some gas, obviously, and great food. I mean, the food's legit for like a gas station. It's made to order. So you have that, which is a huge thing. But let's talk about Kennywood. Because you have Fantasy Revenge and Steel Curtain. Both phenomenal rides. And I'd argue that I would take any of those two coasters over any coaster at Kings Island. That's a hot take. Now, nothing against Kings Island, but would you rather ride, let's say, Fantasy Revenge or any ride at Kings Island?
You know, even though that's an amazing one-off ride, right? The only park in the entire country, actually, I'm sorry, there's two parks in the entire country where you can go and you can hit a Hyper and a Giga. They're both made that are really well, and they're in the two Ohio primary parks.
But the same manufacturer, you mean?
The same manufacturer, yeah. So at Kings Island, you've got Diamondback and Orion.
But Orion's not a Giga. That's the problem.
Regardless if you disagree with RCDB.
Kings Island fans, I'm just teasing.
And the park itself, both of the rides are like 10 minutes apart from each other. You can go on Diamondback, you can go on Orion, you can get Skyline Chili. Then you drive a little bit up the state to the coast, and you can get on the original Hyper Coaster.
That is true.
Right?
That is true.
And then you can get on one of the is Millennium Force one of the most awarded?
Yes, Millennium Force is a fantastic ride. I will give you that.
How many golden tickets has it gotten?
Like a ton.
Every single one except for 2.
Just took over.
Yeah.
But here's what I want to know. Okay. You have classic wooden roller coasters, and which state has the better wooden coasters? I mean, Kings Island has Mystic Timbers, Beast, phenomenal rides. Cedar Point just has Blue Streak. I mean, it's fun, but it's nothing like top tier. You have Phoenix and Twister, Racer, Jackrabbit, plus Thunderhawk at Dorney's really good. And then Hershey has Lightning Racer and then Comet.
Mm-hmm.
That's a really good class of wooden coasters, not to mention Leap the Dips, and some of the other smaller parks in Pennsylvania offers other wooden coasters.
Well, if you want to talk about wooden coasters, what about all the RMC wooden coasters that you have in Ohio?
You just have one.
But it's so great.
I know, but at least you have a new one called Wildcats Revenge that has a stall, which is even better than Steel Vengeance. Here's the thing, too. Just out of curiosity, guys, what parks do you think are better, Ohio or Pennsylvania? Comment below. Also, be sure to check out themeparkmerch.com for all my coaster merch that I designed myself. The link will be in the description of this video. Here's a question I want to know. How much cooler, and I'm going to knock Ohio for this, but how much cooler would Steel Vengeance look if it had a truss lift? Why didn't they add a truss lift to Millennium, or to, what's it called, Steel Vengeance? Wouldn't that be just amazing? It makes you really wonder. But anyways, that might be a whole other video we do just to talk about that. But what it comes down to is I just feel like Pennsylvania has so much more to offer in terms of different types of parks, where Ohio has just the two mega parks, and they're two great parks. But Pennsylvania, you can go to and from each park and do 2 in a day if you wanted to, like Kneobels and Dorney. Dorney, do not overlook Dorney. It's a fantastic park.
Dorney's a great park.
Great park. It's ran by a great team over there. And Kneobels, honestly, I would rather spend a day at Kneobels during Phoenix Fall Fun Fest than a day at Cedar Point. Hands down, Phoenix Night Rides during Phoenix Fall Fun Fest is phenomenal. Enough about the bantering. I don't think we're ever going to agree on this, or like at least I'm not going to admit that Ohio's better. You're not going to admit that Pennsylvania's better. But let's talk future coasters. You have 2 parks, both Cedar Fair parks, and then you also have all the parks in Pennsylvania. Now, obviously, Kneobels doesn't really add a ton of rides or coasters. You know, Kennywood just invested, what, $22 million on Silk Curtain. So they're probably not due for one for a while. Dorney Park is past due, so we know they're going to be getting something at least the next year or 2, most likely. And then Hersheypark's on the streak of investing in major coasters every 2 to 3 years. So what do you think the future holds?
Well, I mean, we know that Cedar Point is doing something with Top Thrill Dragster.
That's
so you've got probably a world-class one coming there. And on top of that, they're going to be building an additional roller coaster because they need to get their count back up to compete with Magic Mountain to take back the #1 slot for the most roller coasters.
If that's, apparent to the corporate, but I think it could be. It's a good marketing tool.
It seems to be, if the past is an indicator of the future, that's been a 20-year competition that I don't think they're just going to give up very easily.
And maybe that's why they got the Wild Mouse.
Could be, because the Wild Mouse is a cheap one that you can add to your count. Hopefully they're not just going to add 3 more family kid rides.
Maybe they'll add 3 more, like a spinning Wild Mouse and like a shuttle Wild Mouse, or a shuttle like a Vekoma boomerang, family boomerang, and then add like 2 restaurants in between each kid coaster just to piss people off.
You could put an E&F on top of one of the restaurants and a
SBS
Miller
spinner too.
Yep.
I mean, I have to give it to Ohio, I think, for the future, just because there's more
Kings Island's
parks that
got
play.
space to put more
Kings
stuff to.
Island has so many places for new coasters. Now, if only Kings Island would actually get a top 10 worthy coaster, like a standout coaster, because Kings Island's collection is fantastic. But really, it's hard to pinpoint, like, that's the best ride. Everyone's going to have a different opinion, usually. At least with Cedar Point, it's either Steel Vengeance, Millennium, usually maybe Maverick. So it's very interesting to see what's going to happen. So, again, let us know your thoughts. Ohio versus Pennsylvania. Please respond in the comments. Give the video a like. And as always, guys, thank you so much for watching. Remember to smile today, think positive, and keep riding coasters.